Hello everyone. Wow, what the hell was that? Hello everyone, welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about Black Swan. Black Swan is a 2010 horror movie, I think. It didn't seem like a horror. It was directed by Darren Aronofsky. And looking him up, he's got some good movies under his belt. Starring Natalie Portman, Mila Kunis, Vincent Cassel. Pretty good cast, honestly, pretty solid. Vincent Cassel, I'm surprised I haven't seen more of him considering how good he is. Especially in this movie, I think he did a pretty good job. Natalie Portman won a award for this. Specifically, Natalie Portman won stuff for this, like lots of awards and crap. Mila Kunis won something as well. I'm kind of surprised she wasn't too in the forefront in this movie, but you'll know if you watch it. So the movie starts with a dance sequence. Very cool. We're introduced to a ballerina Nina and her day leading up to dance practice. She's part of what they call a company. A company is the dancers, directors, musicians, technicians involved with performances like Swan Lake, which is what they're training for. And Swan Lake is probably one of the most popular ballet productions of all time. If you've watched Despicable Me, the girls practice Swan Lake, and Gru misses out on that. Like, he even gets a ticket that says Swan Lake on it. It's popular, okay? Just want to you know that. So Nina's training and stretching with a bunch of other dancers. The director, Thomas, or Thomas, whatever, comes in and explains the story of the show and what Swan Lake is about. And he observes all the dancers in their practice and picks out some dancers to move on to the next stage of, I'm assuming, auditions, so to speak. Thomas then proceeds with auditions to see which woman will take the renowned role of the White Swan, which is the main character of the play and pretty important to all of the dancers there. She does her piece, but Thomas is not very impressed, saying he's looking for someone to dance the White Swan and the Black Swan at the same time. The Black Swan is supposed to be an alter ego of the White Swan during the play. White Swan evolves, or I guess devolves into the Black Swan and back and forth. Here we meet Odile, who becomes a rival to Nina. Walking back home, Nina sees herself, or a woman that looks like her. That's important for later. Nina trains at home and injures herself, and this scene shows the dynamic with her and her mother. Nina talks to Thomas to convince him to have the part. He talks about her needing to let lose control, have some freedom, etc. to get into the mindset of the Black Swan. She's all White Swan and no Black Swan, and he said earlier that if he wanted White Swan, she would be perfect for the role. He then kisses her and she bites him. Obviously, she gets the part anyway. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting scene. She goes home and sees marks on her back, and her mother says this is her scratching herself. She does more rehearsals, and she's getting there. I just want to note that the music is very chaotic here, and that there are rapid chord changes, for example, which elevates the intensity and the stress of like the training, because Thomas isn't very happy. He makes her do it over again, all that stuff. An old woman who used to play the Swan Queen teaches Nina her parts. Why did I write man here? Did I not adjust all the men to Thomas? Because I actually forgot Thomas's name, and I wrote down man because he's the only fucking important man figure in this entire thing. Thomas and Nina observe Odile again, how she has less control, more freedom, and she's a better Black Swan, and Nina's the better White Swan. Nina gets a cut on her finger, but it turns out it's in her head. The company goes to a ball to promote the play, which is filled with character building, basically. Nina looks at a statue, and this is where I kind of wrote this down as check. And I watched it again. I forwarded it because I have it downloaded still. I watched it again, and I couldn't quite pin down what this scene in particular, just her looking at a statue. It seemed important because of what I'd like first focused on it for a few seconds. Just her looking at a statue. I couldn't pin down what this meant. Maybe if you know, you can comment. I can't exactly look this up. Thomas brings her to his place, and he talks about sex in a weird and uncomfortable way, but it doesn't push anything. Luckily, she gets to go home all fine. A retired dancer, Beth, gets in an accident, and we see Beth in the ball. And here, I couldn't tell if this was the old woman from the beginning teaching Nina moves, and then now she's at the ball and she gets into an accident. I'm not going to go back and check. I couldn't really pick this up on first watch. I kind of got confused. Like, who's Beth? Oh, this person. Then what about the old lady? I thought she was the retired dancer. I don't know. We see more of Nina and her mom, and then we see something's not quite right in this dynamic. Like her mom is a little bit obsessive and controlling. Another rehearsal, Nina and Thomas has a private lesson and gets very uncomfortable. Thomas definitely does push a few boundaries here. Next up is more visions. She looks at herself in the mirror and the reflection cuts herself. And then her reflection cut reverses back into reality. Like it gets weird, you know? After Thomas yells at her again, she confronts Odile, because it was technically her fault, and snaps at her. Very interesting because she never snaps at anyone. She's usually the more reserved type. Odile comes to her apartment to apologize, and after her mom begs her to rest, Nina ends up making an impulsive decision to go out and have some fun with Odile in the club, like club, like house music and shit. She comes home late, mom is pissed, but Nina and Odile bang. Loudly, with visions, it's weird. It's all generally just weird. The next morning, Nina overslept. Nina confronts Odile, but she denies banging or coming over at all, saying it was probably a dream. Final rehearsals, Nina was nervous, but it went fine. She keeps having visions of Beth, and then there's a series of horror scenes, and this is actually pretty cool. She sees Thomas and Odile banging off stage, and Thomas transforms and looks like some kind of beast. And I'm assuming that this is the villain in the play, because you see something similar in the intro sequence, like that looking monster. Nina ends up going back to Beth in the hospital, and long story short, Beth stabs herself viciously with a knife that Nina brings with. I don't know, it's very confusing. Nina runs away and ends up at home. Nina hurts her mom because she tries to stop her from pushing herself by being in this important but stressful role. Alright, performance nights finally is here. She starts morphing into a swan, right? Because that's normal. She has webbed feet, and the scratches on her back are feathers breaking out of her skin. Like, it's weird. And then the first part of the performance, I'm going to put them into 3 parts. Part 1 is just her dancing as the white swan. Very stressful, and I think she makes a mistake. Does she? Yeah, she makes a mistake in there, and then she like falls over or she trips or something. Anyway, and then Odile meets her in Nina's dressing room. They get into a fight, and she kills Odile and leaves her body in her dressing room. Okay. Part 2 rolls around, and here she's fully embraced the Black Swan after the kill, literally and figuratively, because she turns into a swan, and the scene is actually pretty disturbing. Like I'm going to show you a picture here. It's actually weird. It was disturbing, you know. The performance is almost done. She takes one last break, checks her dressing room. Odile's body is gone. Odile shows up at her door and apologizes for earlier. And it turns out Nina didn't stab Odile. She stabbed herself, of course. Now it's 110% confirmed that Nina is just batshit crazy. She's just crazy. Part 3 of the performance is the final performance. It's done, finished, good job, except you still stabbed yourself, you crazy bitch. So she ends up lying on the floor, everyone's panicking, and Thomas talks to her, and then she says the performance was perfect, or something. I'm paraphrasing, and then the movie ends. It just ends like that. So we've got a lot to unpack. It was a cool watch overall, but there's obviously a lot of imagery. And first off, I don't know if Beth killing herself was even real, because we don't exactly know what is real here, but I'll get to that in a second. I'd like to first compliment the overall cinematography. Like, the movie captures nervousness and intensity very, very well. Like I said earlier with the music, there's rapid chord changes and it sounds chaotic musically. Never mind the shaky camera and zooming in on all the sweat particles. Like, they do a good job, okay? Also, the horror. Pretty terrifying for a fucking ballet movie, bro. Like, damn. The whole movie is viewed from Nina's perspective. We don't see any private conversations, nothing that doesn't involve Nina. Therefore, that this is all through Nina's eyes and what Nina sees. Just want you to understand that. If you watch the movie, you'll know exactly what I mean. Odile is here to serve as Nina's alter ego. Nina is a sweet, naive girl who is a perfectionist. Like Thomas mentions that, like she makes sure everything is perfect, but doesn't focus on any improvisation. But Odile improvises a lot more, impulsive, less disciplined, but like I said, has more freedom in her life. And Nina has less freedom because of her mother, etc. Nina biting Thomas when he kisses her is her first step in having more freedom. Her yelling at Odile, like small steps in having more and more freedom. And the scratch marks on her back, I think, is actually her scratching herself. It's not just the wings of the swan forming figuratively. Like she just imagines the like scratch marks to be her wings. Like she just starts hallucinating, you know. And speaking of hallucinating, she starts with the finger cut that's in her head, like she cuts it and then she washes it and then it turns out she didn't cut herself. Small little indications that something's quite not right in her head. And this is Thomas putting pressure on Nina to let loose and mistreating her, actual sexually abusing her, her mom controlling her life, Odile finally showing up and like, oh, Odile's better for the role. It's not all her fault. It's the pressure of being in this position she's in, the lead actress in like a huge production. Odile is portrayed as a manipulative person who just tried to screw over Nina, no pun intended. Screw Nina and screw her, whatever. But this movie is played out through Nina's eyes, and we don't get confirmation sometimes as to actually what happened. Like I said with Beth's thing, we don't get confirmation if Odile slept with Nina, made her sleep in so that she can get late for the next performance and makes Nina look like a bad dancer. We don't really know. So Odile could very well be a nice girl who is just a rival, and Lena's just losing her mind and making out to be a horrible person. We don't know. It's up to, obviously, the viewer's interpretation. Nina eventually starts transforming into the Black Swan. Her feet start webbing, the marks on her backs are feathers, and she straight up grows wings during the performance. But this is definitely in her head, and that's when we know that Nina is like, okay, we need to start questioning everything that she's seeing now. And her stabbing herself is just her mindset and a transformation into the Black Swan taking a toll on her, because I need to let go and I need to be the Black Swan for this performance. Fine, I'll do that. And then she starts losing it with everyone. That's basically this whole story. Everyone around her is putting pressure on her. Thomas is abusing her. Odile's suddenly a rival. She realizes her mom is controlling. All of these things are making her go crazy while she's under the pressure of being in this big role. That's the whole message of this movie. And I think it's pretty cool. It's such a cool concept because it's like, is she crazy? Is she actually a swan? No, she isn't. What's really going on? You have to kind of interpret this. So that's what I'm interpreting as. It's just a straight up just message, you know. One criticism though is the use of sex and sexual acts. I think Odile and Nina could have just become best friends. And then Odile just betraying her and not setting her alarm clock, making them drink, sure, but it's just sleeping over and just making her drunk so she can oversleep. They could have done that. Thomas could have just been a normal boss and saying, if you're not the best fit, we'll fire you and bring Odile. That is enough. And obviously, she's the breadwinner of the house. So then she has her mom to take care of. If she gets fired, then she has no money. She can't take care of her mom. These are just as powerful and perfectly good reasons for things to happen. And making it sexual, it's unnecessary and it makes it uncomfortable sometimes, because especially the not sexual assault, I'm saying like that kind of stuff, it's very uncomfortable. And I don't mind sex scenes, but I feel like it's a bit overdone sometimes. It's like you could easily replace this with that, but if you need sex in a movie, put it in. 50 Shades does it right? That's fine. It's about the movie. But this is ballet. I don't think you'd have to. You could have replaced it with other stuff easily. And this is just a show about ballet. It's not based off of a true story. You can change things. I promise. It'll be fine. This is such a cool movie because it shows that anyone, even a sweet girl, can turn into a duck. No, I'm joking. No, it's because the industry puts a lot of pressure on people. And it's not only dancing. It could be any industry, like music industry, anything. But it's nice to see some ballet in a AAA movie. It looks pretty fucking AAA to me. Yeah, it's cool to see that, because we had chess with this thing right there. We had chess, that was pretty cool. We have ballet here. It's cool, I like it. That being said, I give this movie an 8. I would have given it a 9, but all the sex scenes and all the imagery and all the uncomfortableness dropped at -1. Otherwise, great movie with cool symbolism, Great shots, great music, really cool. Great all around the board. So yeah, do any of you dance? I suck at dancing personally, like not only ballet, I can't, like if I'm just at a club, I can't dance just freestyle, move my arms around like a fucking squid. I can't dance, man. I suck. So yeah, let me know if you guys dance and if you enjoyed this movie and if you enjoyed this video. If there's anything else you want me to review, drop it in the comments. Like I'm dropping my ass on the dance floor. I really suck at dancing. I need to learn. Okay? Bye bye.